Jeff Griffin, I'm president of the Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. And to start this morning, if you're able to, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So the Chamber of Commerce hosts 3 of these legislative coffees during session. As you all know, it's of great importance that we keep our constituency involved. It's a great avenue to do that. We're very appreciative of our senators and representatives. This is a very busy time of year for them, obviously, and to be here with us on a Saturday morning means a great deal. And having spent some time in Pierre during session, I know how long their days are. And it means a lot. I can't thank them enough, because whether we agree on topics or disagree, our representatives and senators who engage with us on these legislative coffees and other topics are strong leaders and courageous for doing what they do. Special thank you to our major sponsor, AARP. In addition, thank you to other event sponsors, Sioux Falls Education Association and the League of Women Voters. Our moderator this morning is Sarah Jennings, is the Regional Vice President for AARP's State and Community Engagement Central Region. For 10 years, Sarah has served as the AARP State Director in her home state of South Dakota. Before coming to AARP, Sarah worked on Capitol Hill for 11 years, first as a senior legislative aide on both the House and Senate sides, and then as Chief of Staff to U.S. Senator Mark Dayton. Sarah, the show is yours.
Awesome, thank you. Great, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Awesome. And I appreciate everybody being here this morning. Whether you're joining us here in person or watching virtually, either the Chamber or Argus Leader live streams, I want to welcome you to the second Legislative Coffee of 2022. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Sarah Jennings, and I work with AARP. Today, we have legislators from Districts 9, 13, and 14. This morning, you have 2 options to submit questions. If you have access to an email account on your phone or other electronics, please feel free to email your questions to siouxfallslwv@gmail.com. Again, it's siouxfallslwv@gmail.com, and this email address is listed on the digital slides to either side of the podium. Please include the subject line coffee, and we'll be monitoring this email address and write down questions as they come in. And if you're joining us virtually, we encourage you to use that option and get involved. If you prefer handwriting your questions, if you're here in the room, we have a table set up in the lobby with questions, cards, and pens. Please write your question legibly, I appreciate that, and leave it in the drop box located on the table. We're not going to be coming around and collecting questions this year because of COVID. Again, you can put those out in the lobby. Regardless of what method you use to ask your question, please include bill numbers if possible, and please address issues occurring at the state level, not issues at the federal or local level. And remember to phrase the question so that all legislators can answer. I won't be reading questions addressed to an individual legislator or questions that aren't specific to a bill. Know that I may combine and probably will combine questions on a similar topic, and that is so we can get through as many topics as we can this morning. And if your question doesn't get asked today, please feel free to stay after the event to speak with legislators individually while socially distanced, or contact your legislator through email or phone calls. So a couple more things for folks in the room, especially. First, if you can silence your phones, we know that happens, and we always have that where we get to hear what song you have on your ringtone, right? So silence your phone so we don't have any interruptions. And second, I would just ask if you have responses to any of the answers you hear today, please keep that reaction to yourself. We're trying to keep this kind of moving and keep things moving, and I know everybody is here because you are engaged and you feel strongly about certain issues, which is fantastic, and really the only way this system works is to have engaged constituents. But we want to keep this conversation flowing, and so if you have strong reactions to anything you hear today, I would highly encourage you to stay after and share that opinion with the legislators, either that you're pleased or displeased, so that we can keep things moving and keep the conversation happening. So today's format is as follows. Each legislator will get a chance to introduce themselves, indicate what district they represent, committees on which they serve, and how long they've served in the legislature. Legislators will then have 90 seconds to respond to questions, and there's no rebuttal time. Legislators, I think most of you have been through this before, but if you want to answer, if you want to respond to a question, just raise your hand, and I'll try to keep track of order, and I'll call on you when it's your turn. As we near the end of our coffee today, each legislator will have an opportunity for a 90-second closing statement to comment further on issues brought up or to comment on a topic that was not covered in the questions. Legislators, our timer is right here, and she's going to keep us all on track, and she'll have the signs to let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. And my ask of you all is that you respect that so that I don't have to get stern with anybody. So thank you for following the time limits, and if you're, as I said, I'll try to cut you off politely if I need to. So we're going to start with introductions to my left. So Representative Duba is going to start, and we'll just come down the line, and just as a heads up, we'll start with closing statements down on my right, so at the end of the thing. So Representative Duba, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see so many folks here today. I'm Representative Linda Duba from District 15, which is the northern part of Sioux Falls. This is my 4th year in the legislature, all in District 15. I serve on the House and Joint Appropriations Committee. I serve on the Government Operations and Audit Committee. I serve on the Retirement Law Committee. And then this summer, I was part of the Marijuana Summer Study, both on the overall committee and the subcommittee for medical marijuana. I also serve on the Oversight for Juvenile Justice, as does this wonderful senator to my left. And I serve on the Oversight Committee for Mental Health Competency. And I think I covered all of it. Thank you.
You did great. Thank you. Senator Steinhauer.
Hi, I'm Senator Wayne Steinhauer. I want to welcome you all to District 9. I represent District 9, and you're sitting in District 9. So I think it's great that you all came to my district to participate in government. It's wonderful to see this many people that want to be involved. I've been in the Senate for 4 years. It's my 4th year. I spent 3 years in the House prior to that. So it's my 7th year. I am chair of Health and Human Services in the Senate. I'm on the Education Committee. I'm on Commerce and Energy. I'm also on the GOAC committee, that's Government Operation and Audit Committee, and seems like every year I'm on a summer study, most recently dealing with mental health issues. So I'm delighted to be here and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Representative Healy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Erin Healy. I represent District 14. I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee as well as the Education Committee. And then there's also a Legislative Rules and Procedure Committee, both for House and Joint Senate and House that I serve on.
There we go. My name is Senator Larry Zickman. I'm from District 14, which is in the southeast part of the city. We welcome you this morning. I serve on Commerce and Energy, Military and Veterans Affairs, retirement laws, and what else do I? And I've got 4 committees. This is my 8th year. I served 6 years in the House and now 2 years in the Senate. So it's a pleasure to be with you. It's an honor to be with you. There's not a day that I don't go in there and look at the ceiling, because the ceiling in both houses have a lot of nice artistry and pictures, etc. And thank the good Lord that I'm there, and my district and my state puts me there. So welcome aboard. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Representative Thomason.
Hi, I'm Representative Richard Thomason. This is my 2nd year, so this is still my 1st term. I represent District 13, which is in South Central Sioux Falls. A little bit about me: I went to Lincoln High School, and then I ended up going to college out of state, but was very excited to move back. In the state government, I am in local government and taxation, which are 2 very exciting committees to be on. And I really do appreciate you all coming out, and I as well enjoy serving this great state.
Good morning, everybody. Isn't it a great day to be in South Dakota? Yes, it is. I'm Jack Kovac. I'm in District 13. Richard said what the area is. We're in the southeastern part of the city, and I'm going on my 6th term as a senator of that district. I have been on appropriations now for the last 4 years, and if anybody wants to know about appropriations, my good friend down on the end there, Representative Linda Duba, and I get to see each other every day for about 6 hours sitting in appropriations. I also this summer had the privilege of working on the Workforce Housing Committee, And as you see, workforce housing is a struggle in the state of South Dakota, and we have some legislation coming through that hopefully we can help that project out. But I really want to thank you all for coming today and thank the Chamber and everybody involved and AARP for inviting us. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Representative Sue Peterson. I serve in District 13 along with Senator Colbeck and Representative Thomason. I am in my 6th year in the House, and I currently serve as the Vice Chair of the House Education Committee. I am on the Judiciary Committee and also serve on the Government Operations and Audit Committee.
Good morning. My name is Taylor Rayfelt. I'm a representative out of District 14. This is my first term, second session. It's been a great time. I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee as well as Judiciary Committee. I also served on the summer committees, the Mental Health Delivery Task Force, as well as the Mental Health of First Responders Task Force, and also the Medical Marijuana Committee.
Great, thank you. All right, so our first question, which we have the most cards about, is about HB 1310. So HB 1310, I'm going to summarize. Like I said, we have quite a number of questions about this one, and most of them ask about what your position on the bill, and if you support the bill, how do you feel that it would affect local control over education and the job that teachers and school boards need to do to meet the very specific needs of their students? And we'll start with Representative Peterson.
Thank you very much. That's actually my bill, so I'm happy to speak on that bill. And I think there's been a fair amount of misinformation and misunderstanding about the bill. It's a parental engagement bill. It doesn't really require more of teachers than they're currently doing. It just asks for the school districts. It's really an ask of the school district. It's an administrative ask that they would provide easy access to parents of all the materials that their child is learning in class. It doesn't say you have to do your lesson plans a year ahead of time and submit them by June 30th. I've heard that one. And it doesn't say lesson plans at all. It doesn't even include lesson plans in there. It's just asking for materials that are used in class. And it should be a pretty easy thing because all of those things are fed now to students through their laptops. And so it's all electronic. So, and my understanding is the way that districts work is they have a curriculum supervisor or someone who is managing that anyway. So it's just a way to provide easy access for parents so that they can be more engaged. And the teachers that I talk to say they would welcome more parent engagement. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? Representative Duba?
Thank you. I've heard from several teachers on this bill. There's a couple of social media posts out there. I've read this a couple of times, and I just recently left the education field, and I know that Senator Peterson means well, and she thinks this is easy to do. But in the day-to-day of teaching, you've got to be able to teach on the fly sometimes and adjust. And our teachers, as the workload today is it's extremely heavy. They're dealing with ever-changing conditions in their classrooms. They've got behaviors to deal with. They're teaching, yes, from a curriculum, a standardized curriculum, but they have the ability within their curriculum to use different sources and materials. And you have different levels of students who require certain modifications. I do find that, we have the opportunity for parents every day to reach out to teachers and get engaged and be involved. And I just feel that this is putting an undue burden on our districts and on our teachers. And I will, if this bill makes it to the House floor, I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Yes, go ahead, Senator Steinhauer.
Thank you. You're probably going to hear me say this several times today. There's so many bills coming on your legislature. Is it not?
Oh,
Closer. And my wife was worried earlier that I was talking about the crap in my garage and everybody could hear it. So now we know. Now we know it's on. Okay. So what I was saying is that you're going to hear me say this numerous times. There's so many bills introduced that whatever chamber you're in, I think you are really watching what's going on in your chamber. My radar screen only goes a couple of days out in terms of what's coming, so this is my first time reading that bill. At first blush, I would agree with Representative Duba that I'm sure that Representative Peterson, well-intentioned. The thing that I think we'll need to watch on this particular bill is whether or not the word any materials used for instruction sounds very broad, whether that needs to be narrowed. And also, I'd like to hear, and this is the neat thing about the legislature, every bill goes through 5 steps, so there's hearings, pro and con, you're going to get a lot of information. Are they, the thing that we need to hear is what kind of cost are we driving into the school system by doing this? That would be something to watch. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Representative Healy.
Thank you. Yes, the core of our curriculum is, or the core of what teachers are teaching is really set through curriculum. So you can reach out at any time and ask teachers what they're teaching in their classrooms, what their plan is to teach. We need to allow that flexibility to be maintained in the classroom, and we really need to treat our teachers with the respect that they deserve. They are professionals. They went through 4 years of schooling, and some even more with their master's degrees, to really be able to teach this. And by expecting them to hit rigid curriculum in how often when they're going to teach what they're going to teach, is really unhelpful to the classroom and our kids, ultimately our kids.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we're going to stick with education for a couple more questions because we got a lot of them coming in. This next one is simply, will you be supporting the 6% increase to education that has been proposed? Go ahead. Yes.
I will definitely be supporting the increase for 6%. I think that's very important, especially with the rate of inflation that we've had. And I'm excited that the governor had put it in her budget, and I'm proud that she has, and will continue to support that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Representative Thomason, and then
I will also be supporting that. It is very good to keep people in South Dakota. I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they enjoy the state just as much as a lot of us do, but sometimes they do tend to take a look into some neighboring states to see if there might be a better opportunity. And I think that this will really help keep them to stay in South Dakota and for them to help educate our future generations as well.
Great. Senator Colbeck, and then Representative Healy.
Thank you. Thank you. As I said earlier, I'm on appropriations, and I'm in favor of doing this as well. And just to give you some kind of a number on it, this will generate somewhere in the vicinity between 120 and 140 extra $1 million into the pocketbooks of South Dakotans, of CSPs, teachers, government employees, et cetera, and down the line. And you'll hear a lot of talk out there about the inflation rate being at about 7% right now, and we know that 6% sometimes may not reach that target market or that target. But then look back a couple years where we have announced and given it above the mean rate of 3%. Not that it'll go any higher than 6%, but I'm definitely in favor of doing that, and I just thought I'd give you a couple numbers. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Representative Healy, and then Senator Zickman.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly support the 6% raise, and I echo basically everything everyone else has said. I would also add that in the future, we need to continue to look at how we can support our teachers and our state, and encourage continuous raises over the years through our state budget.
Great, thank you. Senator Zickman, and then Mike.
Is that on?
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Well,
as a former teacher and school administrator, I try to support everything I can for education, specifically and for vocational technical education. So yeah, I'm going to support the bill. Another thing that I want to comment to everybody in the room, please remember when legislators co-sponsor bills, and you'll see a lot of co-sponsors, there are a few co-sponsors, etc. And there's many reasons that they co-sponsor bills. But that doesn't guarantee that they will vote for that bill. There might be different reasons they want to see the bill come through the committee or onto the House. So make sure that you please understand that and don't get upset with your legislators because they are co-sponsoring a bill. But yes, I will be supporting the 6%. Thank you.
great. Senator Steinhauer, then Representative Peterson, and then Representative Duba. Go ahead.
Thank you. I also will be supporting it, but I just want to point out that I wish there was more, and with no offense to my appropriators, And I have to say that the whole legislature, I think, is guilty of this. We talk about three groups. The big three is what we often talk about. State employees. We talk about community support providers, which I'm a big fan of. They're taking care of people that need tremendous assistance in our state, and if these providers weren't doing it, the state would do it. And then we talk about educators as if they're all equal. I'm here to tell you a 6% raise for state employees ends up more in the paycheck than it does in the other two, because overhead and other expenses are covered elsewhere in the state budget. You get to education, that 6% is coming through in the formula, and it doesn't trickle down to the teachers at the same rate. So we often talk about them like they're the same when we say the big three, but they really aren't. I wish we could change that paradigm.
Great, thank you. Representative Peterson.
As a former member of the Appropriations Committee, I've been a part of the budgeting process in good years and bad years, and so I'm really pleased that the governor, in a year where we do have the funds available, has proposed that we do a 6% increase for education. I would echo what Senator Steinhauer said, in that sometimes it is mentioned as a 6% increase for teachers, but it really ends up being a 6% increase for education. So I think we have to be clear about that. I'm also glad to see that our community support providers and our state employees are part of that as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Representative Duba.
I'm going to make this real easy. Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, one more question on education before we're going to move to some other topics. And this one, I'm combining a few. We got a bunch of bills or questions that came in with two House bills, one HB 1012 and HB 1337, but both deal with curriculum and the legislature getting involved with setting curriculum. And I have questions here on both the pro and con side, so I'm going to keep it kind of simple and just say, do you support or oppose these bills, and why? I'll give folks a chance to take a look at those bills. And
Please repeat the numbers.
HB 1012 and HB 1337. I don't have the full definition, and I always fear, yeah. That would be great. So if someone would be willing to read the title for HB 1012 and then HB 1337, so everyone is clear. Go ahead.
I have 1012 pulled up. It's an act to protect students from critical race theory. I believe this one went through education this last week. It is rather lengthy. I can read it if you'd prefer.
No, I don't think we need to read the full bill. I just didn't want to make up the title because I don't have those. So that's the title. Does anyone have HB 1337 pulled up? And can we read the official title? Go ahead.
Protect elementary and secondary students from political indoctrination.
All right. So now that we know the official titles, anyone care to speak? Go ahead, Representative Peterson.
Thank you. As a member of the House Education Committee, we heard these bills last week, and they're divided into two categories. The first bill, 1012, addresses higher education. The second bill addresses K-12. And the reason for that is because you can do significantly different things in both areas, and so as to not mix and match those and find yourself in a situation where you might be violating academic freedom at the higher ed level. The bills were split into two. And it's important to note that 1012 is the higher ed bill, and the Board of Regents actually supported that. These are both governor's bills, but there has been a very collaborative effort on the part of a number of individuals and groups to come together and put together language that we think works. And then the second bill, 1337, is the bill addressing K-12. That was amended in committee, and both of those should be on the House floor this week, and I do support both of those bills.
Okay, thank you. Representative Healy?
Yes, I'm also on the Education Committee, and is this on?
Yes.
There, okay.
Yes.
I'm also on the Education Committee, and I was one of two no votes. Teachers really need to have the opportunity to be honest about racial injustice that we see in our country today. so our students are able to think critically about our past and how we can change our future. And it's important to talk about these disparities and the fact that they still exist, because these conversations will help us determine solutions that will lead to a better country. And we can't continue to move forward in racial justice and equity if we are censoring our teachers and not allowing them to answer hard questions in the classrooms. And I also want to make it really clear that like CRT is not, or any issue like this is not being taught in K through 12. But what this really does, what this bill 1337 really does, is create a chilling effect on our teachers so they don't feel like they can even approach the subject or answer any kind of questions that exist. And if we really love America, then we want it to be the best that it can. And for that reason, I can't support 1012 or 1337.
Anybody else? Representative Duba.
Thank you. I went and actually had the opportunity to listen to the testimony, both pro and con, for 1337. I was in a committee meeting, so I missed the first bill. But I think there was something very clearly brought up by one of the folks representing the SDEA. And the clear thing is that we have a set of ethics as teachers that we are held to and that we sign when we take on that role as a teacher, as a staff member, which is very important to note. And those rules and those ethics are very binding. And so we have a process in place. If there is anything taking place that is driving a student or driving home a specific political opinion, parents, people from the outside, administrators all have a process by which they can follow to have that investigated and dealt with. This bill, 1337, is unnecessary. What it's doing right now is it's putting fear and anger and frustration and anxiety into the hearts and minds of our teachers and our education staff. And many of them are seriously thinking of quitting the profession, and I'm not making this up, and or leaving the state and going to a place where they feel appreciated. I know that the same fears are on our college campuses, and so I will not be supporting them.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I sit on Senate Education, so I'm sure I'll be seeing these bills, so I'll reserve judgment until I've heard testimony pro and con. I do believe that we should be teaching history, both good and bad. We're a great country, but we've had some dark moments. You know, I was saying to someone just the other day that the political world is round. People that go to the extreme right end up sometimes coming all the way around to the other side of the world and they're voting on the left. This is one where critical race theory, I think the left ends up sometimes shooting themselves in the foot. I was reading just this morning about something called white savior complex, which is in this critical race theory, where a white individual who tries to help a minority is either consciously or unconsciously thinks they're superior. Well, I guess I'm guilty, because I've spent a lot of time trying to help Native American health care in the state of South Dakota. And it's because I've got a position that I was elected to that I'm supposed to do it, not because I think I'm superior. We've got to start thinking of people as equal and stop this crap.
Senator Colbeck, sorry. And again, I'm going to ask the audience to keep reactions to yourselves, but then you're welcome to talk to folks after the session. So Senator Colbeck, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm not making any excuses here. Today's the first time that I've seen 1012. I have read through 1337 and 1310. I got a couple emails on that last night, and just to let you know that I will be listening to 1337 testimony on the way back to Pier, and the other bills, because being where I'm at in the appropriations, there's a lot of times that I do not get to see bills until after they have come through committee in the House, and at that point in time is when I either listen to the testimony or I will go to the sponsor of the bill and ask for their opinion or other people to get information on those bills. So at this time, I really don't have a judgment on them. I am leaning towards 1337. I'll tell you that right now publicly, that I'm looking in favor of that one, but I haven't made up my mind as of today. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
I also haven't made a decision in regards to these bills. We do have one of them on the House floor on Monday, so I plan to really dive deep into the testimony tomorrow. when I have time. I am very interested in education because I do have a 4 and a 6-year-old. My daughter Judy here is with me, as well as my son Flynn. So I apologize when you see them coming up and back and forth. But I really want to emphasize that I think that where we are in the state of education in terms of political debate is disappointing. I wish that we could all come together a little bit more and concentrate on issues that really impact the core of our education and how we can get people graduated and into the workforce and really benefit who we are as a community. And so I tend to look at these issues the best that I can and judge each bill individually and not on all of the noise that tends to be about a lot. So that's where I'll leave it.
Senator Zickerman?
Thank you. Well, these are going to be two very probably controversial bills as they come through. Please understand, we have almost 600 bills coming through the House and the Senate. That's probably more bills. I've been there for a year where they've been close to that or a little over that. But there's a lot of bills and commemorations, et cetera, that are coming through. Many times your legislators don't have the opportunity or chance to see some of these bills until they're coming across over to the other group. So you want to sometimes be patient with them because sometimes they don't have the opportunity. So, but these will probably be two controversial bills. They're governor bills, and anytime usually that they're governor bills, you're going to have some controversy over them. So, thank you.
Representative Thomason.
Thank you. Yeah, naturally, when bills like this come up, there's going to be a lot of division, and you really need to sometimes dive into the bill to fully understand it. Some of my other legislators, like myself, have not been able to really dive into these with different committees that we are on or with different things that we have going on outside of the legislature as well, because we are a citizen legislature, so we do have a lot of other things going on, but we do enjoy being out there. With both of these bills, I want to echo some of the other comments of how do you teach something, and then how do you try to prevent something that may be getting brought up that you don't want to, and that sometimes that's difficult. So right now I don't have a position on either because I do really need to dive in a little bit more and figure out what to do, and we'll be doing that on Monday. So thank you.
All right, we're going to now get a Senate bill into the action here. Senate Bill 137. This is regarding the subject that was given to me is regarding surrogacy, and the question, and I have several of them, is that I'll summarize is just if you are not in favor of this bill, why? And again, it's Senate Bill 137. Give me a second. Go ahead, Representative Duba.
Thank you very much. I've had the opportunity to meet several of the folks who are supporting or brought this bill to the legislature. They've worked diligently within the medical community and all of the important partners, the legal community, to put together a wonderful framework and structure for surrogacy in South Dakota where one didn't exist. The opportunity for individuals to have their own biological child through this wonderful process, and for those angels walking among us, and there's one here today, who carries those children, I have the utmost high regard and respect, and I will be supporting the bill.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I'm a little conflicted on this bill. We always trot out the altruistic surrogacy, and I don't want to interfere with that. What this bill doesn't address is something that does need to be addressed, and that there's a child involved. And where that child ends up, I think one of the purposes of government is to take care of those that can't take care of themselves, and that would be an infant. And we want to make sure that that infant ends up in a home that is prepared financially and morally to accept that child. And they should, I think, possibly go through a process that reviews that the receiving home is much like we do with adoptions. In fact, I'll be carrying a bill with that intent.
All right, anybody else? Go ahead, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you. Senate Bill 137, I listened to the testimony on that, and there's a few things in that bill that bothered me on the legal side of things. And another thing that bothered me, again, was the fact that the child was never talked about within that whole committee hearing, either on the opponent side or the proponent side of that bill. I'm very familiar with surrogacy because I had a person in my life that's still in my life that was involved with that for over 39 years. And so I have asked some advice on that. And at this time, unless something changes my mind, I would not be supportive of this bill just because of some of the legal ramifications that are still need to be addressed in this bill. And I think that maybe they can make an amendment or two and bring this around, might make it better. But at this time, that's where I stand. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead. We'll go
Thank you.
Representative Rayfeld and then Peterson.
Thank you. Well, I'm a sponsor of this bill, not the prime sponsor, and I followed it very closely. And I wanted to just mention that currently there are no surrogacy laws in the state, so we really need to have something on the books that gives some guidelines. And so I'm very supportive of that. I do understand some of the concerns that have been brought forward, and I also continue and will continue to make sure that we emphasize the child and the safety of the child. And I think that those can be things that are worked on as we go forward. However, I think it's very important that we get something passed that has some responsible regulation in terms of how we are approaching surrogacy in the state. So I will be very supportive.
All right, Representative Peterson.
This is a Senate bill, and so we have not seen it on the House side. I haven't thoroughly dug into it, but on first glance, I would say I would be more supportive of the bill that is coming through the House that addresses the same topic, and I don't recall offhand what that number is, but we do have a couple bills, and I would be more supportive of the House version.
All right, Representative Healy.
Yep, I'm very supportive of this bill. I know that the surrogacy folks have been working on this for a few years to get this in order, and we're drafting a bill since, I believe, a year and a half ago. This really does just, as Representative Rayfeld said, put into statute certain definitions so we can move forward in allowing parents to use surrogacy as an option to bring a child into this life, into our world.
All right. We're going to move now to medical and recreational marijuana. There's several, and I was trying to, my phone wasn't cooperating, but on I'm going to separate it into two questions, and that was a request from several of the questions that came in. There are several bills that are referenced. Again, I have quite a few questions. The bill numbers that were referenced are HB 1280, HB 1045, and SB 3. And I think on the medical marijuana issue, the questions I will summarize to say there have been a number of bills to address the possible abuse of medical marijuana. What is your stance, and how have you voted, as well as regarding HB 1280, which is specific to telehealth and prescribing over telehealth. Yep, the numbers again, HB 1280, HB 1045, and SB 3. I think I found all of them. Anybody want to go first? And I know we're giving everybody a moment to call those up.
I can
Go ahead, Representative Thomason.
I can touch on 1045 just a little bit because it is in one of my committees. I'll read the title of the bill. Increase a tax on the gross receipts of all sales of marijuana and to distribute a portion of that revenue to counties. We have had already a couple of amendments that have been passed, and so it keeps getting kind of pushed down the line because of the amendments. I don't disagree that the money needs to go to the counties. I think, for me, one of my issues is how do you come up with a number? There was at one point, I think it was 15% would be the tax, which I personally thought was a little too high. And then there were some other ways that the funds were going to be distributed. And so that one is still in the committee process, and we're still trying to get some language down that we can kind of all come to an agreement on, and at least the tax committee to be able to help push that onto the House floor.
Go ahead, Representative Rayfeld.
So 1280, for reference, was heard in the Health and Human Services Committee this week, and it was in regards to telehealth for medical marijuana. I did support that in committee. I think we need to approach marijuana, this medical reason, like we do other medical procedures and medical processes. And so telehealth is a part of that process. So I want to make sure that we're being consistent, and that's why I voted for it. As far as the other two bills, which were 1045 and SB 3, those are regarding recreational marijuana. I am
Sorry.
supportive of recreational marijuana because of the ballot process that went forward and how the voters did approve recreational marijuana as well as medical marijuana. I would like to see responsible regulations in place, and I plan to monitor these things going forward.
Yes.
I should have said that, and I appreciate my very good friend in the district right next to me by bringing that up. As 1045 is kind of more of a preliminary bill on when recreational marijuana gets implemented on the taxes on it. So thank you for saying that, Representative Rayfeld.
Great, and thank you. And go ahead, Representative Duba.
Thank you. I'm very well versed in Senate Bill 3, as it did come from our summer study committee, and it does support the will of the people for recreational marijuana. It's an excellent bill. We have not seen it yet on the House side. I'm sure it'll find its way over there this week, but we took copious amounts of testimony this last summer. So I am very supportive of that. 1280, I'm just, I read it early this morning. I agree with Representative Rayfeld that telehealth is also a part of, healthcare services, and so I am inclined to support that bill. And 1045 is really coming in and telling us how we're going to tax this. And so I'm going to leave it to the taxation experts to come up with a bill, and then I will listen to testimony down on the floor, because I believe we have that bill on our docket either Monday or Tuesday in the House. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Go ahead, Senator Steinhauer.
So, medical marijuana, the intent that I want to try and follow is that we treat it as a medicine, because that's what 70% of the voters asked us to do. So when it comes to telehealth, devil's always in the details. You got to listen to it. If it's telehealth with a South Dakota licensed provider, I'd be much more inclined. But if it's to allow a doctor-patient relationship with anyone across the United States, then we've turned medical into recreational. We need to be cautious how that's done. I've not seen it. We'll wait to see if it makes it to the Senate. When it comes to counties, I'm very sympathetic to their situation. They've got property tax and wheel tax, and that's it. And the property tax is that well is dry in the state of South Dakota. So I think we need to be careful, though, on how much we tax a medicine. If it's recreational, I think we can tax the heck out of it. When it comes to Senate Bill 3, I'll probably hold my nose and vote for it. And I hold my nose because I've spent too many summers working on mental health issues in the state of South Dakota. And marijuana, THC, and a developing mind is not a good thing. The rate of psychosis has gone up significantly in states that have legalized recreational marijuana. And so I have a hard time getting excited about that.
All right. Go ahead, Senator Colbeck.
Yeah. First of all, I get it. I mean, the people voted both recreational and medical marijuana into the state. Medical marijuana, through the bills that we have had so far, we're just trying to make sure that we started with a crawl, and now we're into the walk. And I think that was a good plan by our committee this summer that studied the medical marijuana and what kind of regulations and laws we needed to put on it, so that we didn't start out with just a run like the state of Colorado did. And so I've got a lot of respect for that committee. They put a lot of hours and stuff into that medical marijuana. As far as the taxes for the counties, I echo what Senator Steinhauer said. They are in dire need of some money for their own infrastructures, et cetera, on down the line. So if there's something like that may come through, we'll take a serious look on it. On SB 3, which is the recreational marijuana, and I'll just say this, I get it, the people voted for it. 54% of the people voted for recreational marijuana in the state of South Dakota. But as everybody knows, under the federal law, marijuana is an illegal drug. And we as senators and representatives are working very hard on treating the will of the people as they voted. But in the same respect, we as senators and representatives are making rules and regulations and laws on a drug that is federally or illegal in the United States of America. And so we're very cautious about how we're going to make that legal in the state of South Dakota and abide by what the voters voted for.
Thank you. Representative Healy.
I'll be very brief. I will be supporting Senate Bill 3. It is the will of the people, and I think our marijuana committee has done a wonderful job this year outlining what needs to be done for medical and recreational marijuana in our state. And on 1080, I will be supporting that as well. I see that as a patient access issue, and telehealth is available in a variety of areas across healthcare, and this is just another area where we need to be providing access to our patients.
All right, thank you. And again, I tried to split up those questions and failed because my phone didn't get me to the right numbers. But if you have follow-up questions, I'm sure the legislators would be happy to talk to you after as well. So now the next bill is HB 1267. Again, HB 1267. And again, we have a big stack of questions on this one, and one that summarizes, I will read, and that is, the bill that addresses use of ivermectin for COVID was heard in House Committee this week and will be heard on the floor. How did you vote if you were on the committee, and why? And how will you vote if it goes to the floor, and why? And again, HB 1267. Go ahead. Thank you.
I'll start this one off since I was on the committee that got this to the floor. So I voted against this bill in committee, and part of the reason was this allows somebody to dispense a medication without a prescription when it is a drug that's supposed to be dispensed with a prescription. So I had some concerns about that. There was some discussion during committee about doing an amendment that would add in prescribe, which then I would be more open to conversations surrounding this bill. And I just wanted to mention in a broader respect that I think we've gotten to another disappointing place where we are having to insert ourselves into the medical community and make decisions in attempt for the medical community. And I just wish that we'd have the ability to trust our medical professionals, whatever their decision may be, whether or not they're deciding to prescribe a drug like ivermectin, or they're willing to prescribe a different drug for COVID-19 or any other procedure. We support our medical professionals regardless of where they are in their opinions, and they should be following evidence-based practice. And I think that it's important to continue to do that where we are supporting the medical professionals in their decisions. Thank you.
All right, and Representative Healy, and then Representative Duba.
I wholeheartedly agree with Representative Rayfeld, exactly what she said. And I'd also like to add, I'm unsure if we've ever seen a bill like this before, where we are now putting in statute what we should and should not be, what kind of drugs we should and should not be handing out to people. And I have a lot of questions for the prime sponsor of this when it reaches the House floor. I did vote no on this in committee, and of course I will be voting no for it on the House floor as well.
Representative Duba?
You know, we as legislators, I would say the majority of us are not doctors. We're not physicians. We're not medical personnel. And here is a bill coming forward asking us to make a medical decision. I personally believe that we need to leave that up to the professionals. I'll listen to the testimony on Monday, but I most certainly will not be supporting this bill.
All right, anybody else? Representative Peterson?
I think it's important that individuals have choices and that they can make medical decisions for themselves. And so I think options that are available are important. And I'll be looking closely at the particulars of this bill, but I will always tend to err on the side of personal freedom and individual choice, and then also individual accountability.
Anybody else? All right, go ahead.
I just want to comment that bill went through 7-6, so it's got a close vote. I'm assuming, and I just assume a lot, but I'm assuming it's going to have a problem getting through the House. So just to let you know, it only went through 7-6.
All right, anybody else? All right, the next bill is SB 166. And I'll summarize these questions by asking, what are your thoughts on eliminating the grocery tax or the sales tax? Again, SB 6. Go ahead, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you. And being on appropriations, and my good friend down on the left of me over there, Representative Duba, this has been a lot of discussion within our appropriations, and we actually have a work group working on the sales tax reduction. The sales tax on food, as you well know, it came about quite some time ago in the state of South Dakota, and I understand that that it can be a burden on a number of people, but everybody in the state pays it. But just as a conservative Republican, you put a tax reduction out in front of us, it's like putting a carrot in front of a donkey. We both want it, okay? But then there's also the part of being fiscally responsible. With the increase of possibility of Medicaid expansion coming into the state, with all the one-time money that is going into our budget this year, and with the sales tax where it's at right here, if this goes down and this goes up 4 years from now, 3 years from now, somebody in the legislature is going to have to look at this side of it. You know, so whether or not that is the fairest way to do things today, I'm not sure. The food tax reduction, I would probably say that I would support that in that respect. But again, I just want to remind everybody of the fiscal responsibility that we as the legislature have to do, and under constitutional law, we have to have a balanced budget at the end of the year. And I would hate to think down the future we really have to put some people in jeopardy on this part. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead, Representative Duba.
Well, I definitely need to speak up since I'm a prime sponsor of this bill in the House. And I think what's really most important to realize here is that, you know, our food tax, everyone currently pays sales tax on food. And that is an undue burden, especially on those who are on fixed income, on the poor. I represent a lot of those folks in the north end of Sioux Falls, and we see them across the state. We're going to be getting our fiscal note on this, and a fiscal note really tells us what the impact is to the overall revenue. I think that's also important, and you know, I'm going to support the bill. If the fiscal note comes back where it's really going to hurt our revenues, then we're going to have to look at some modifications. Thank you.
Anybody else? Representative Healy? Oh, sorry. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will be supporting this bill. I also am looking forward to seeing the fiscal note on this, but we do have a fiscal responsibility in our state, and I think we also have a moral responsibility to take care of people around us and make sure that they are able to afford food and put food on their table. Sales tax is a regressive form of tax, and this would really help a lot of folks out in our state.
Anybody else? All right. The next question is regarding, and again, I have several here, a little stack on the Convention of State proposals. And there was HRJ 5001 and JRGF6. And the question I will ask, and there's a lot of different questions in here just about both in terms of understanding what a Convention of States could do, and then also asking about the consideration, since it appears to be dead again this year, what your position was on it, and would you support it if it came forth again? Anybody want to go first? Go ahead.
I supported it, but it's dead. So there's probably more important things to talk about today.
Anybody else? There are a lot of questions on it, so I think there was some interest in kind of why did it die and some of the feelings too. So if anybody else wants to talk more about what went on in here around this one, I think folks are interested. Go ahead, Senator Colbeck. Thank you.
Okay, I'll echo what Senator Steinhauer said, but you know, in all reality, the Convention of States is where the states can vote in a convention, and it takes, I believe, 34 states in order to draw a convention together. And the one that was in front of us this year was the term limits for our federal government legislators. And as you know, if we would have got, you know, we get enough states in there, they can call a convention of states and vote on putting a term limit, such as on our senators and representatives. And that was the gist of the Convention of States this year, especially the one that came through the Senate. It failed 19 to 16. I supported it. I've supported Convention of States. I think our federal government needs to, you know, we need to get some control on what is going on in there, the federal government level. And anyway, that's kind of a short explanation of it, and that's how it ended up. It's a dead issue now. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Always me. Is that on?
Yes.
I supported it. It went down 19 to 16, and it was a close vote, good debate. It came out. We smoked it out on the floor, and it was the people in my district. I received a lot of yes vote for it. I probably only received one in my district that said no. That goes to tell us something, and but I did vote for it, and like I said, I received a lot of my people in my district said to vote yes for it, and I try to listen to my people. So thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Representative Healy.
I'll be the only no on speaking up on this. I did not support this. I do agree with Senator Colbeck that we need to clean up our federal government, but I think that can be done through term limits and through campaign finance reform.
All right. Thank you. All right. The next bill number, HB 1194, HB 1264. Again, HB 1194 and HB 1264. And I'll read this one that I think represents the other questions. These bills appropriate funds for a liaison office for missing and indigenous persons. Would you support? Go ahead, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you. Now, that come up in appropriations, and I'll just give you a little history behind that. We're looking at putting in a special, if I got the right bill here, we're looking at putting a special person into the AG's office to do exactly what the bill says, and that's to help out. I have trouble pronouncing the word indigenous, but for finding the missing people. Just to let you know that the Flanders Santee Sioux tribe has stepped forward and they would support $47,000 a year for the next 2 years towards the payment of that particular individual if this bill went through into the AG's office. There's been a lot of support for it. There hasn't been brought forward yet as far as a bill to vote on yet, but the Attorney General has put that into his general fund budget, and that's something that we'll be taking up, I believe, later this week or early part of next week in our appropriations. So that's where that bill comes from. If anybody has some issues or wants to talk on it, thank you.
Representative Peterson?
Thank you. 1194 is a bill that is brought by Representative Tamara St. John from Sisseton, and it is a follow-up bill, if I'm understanding correctly. We did pass the permission. We had a permissive bill last year that allowed this office to be established under the understanding that there would be a different funding source. I think that the tribes at that time were saying that they would fund it, and I think there's been some change in that, and they're willing to partially fund it, but we still would like to get it done, and I would be very much in support of this.
Representative Healy?
Thank you. I will be supporting both of these bills. Just some quick facts that I quickly looked up. 4 out of 5 of Native women are affected by violence today, and they are also facing murder rates at more than 10 times the national average. We obviously have a problem in our state, and just the other day, Representative Poulier from Pine Ridge has posted on her social media account that another woman from Pine Ridge has gone missing. So this is a problem that they face every day that we really need to solve for our state.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead, Representative Duba.
Thank you. The bills both give different dollar amounts, so we need to kind of come together and figure out what we want to do. 1194 talks about $70,000 from the general fund, which is something that Senator Colbeck and I will deal with in appropriations, and the other one obligates $424,000 over a period of time. At the end of the day, this position is critical to our state. This is not just Native Americans. This is all missing persons. However, 70% of them are Native, and we need to put some teeth behind it, some money behind it, and make it an important piece of our investigation out of the AG's office. I will support what we finally decide.
Senator Steinhauer?
I will also support it.
Senator Zickman?
I'm also going to be supporting, but just to give you a quick procedure to the people out here. The procedure for most all funding now goes through policy committees first before it goes to appropriations. The policy committee can let it go through or not let it go through. But just so you know that it never used to be that. Never, I shouldn't say never, but we haven't had it that way for quite a while. I personally like it that way because it sends it through the policy committee before it goes to appropriations. So that's the procedure that most of all the funding requests have to go through.
Representative Thomason?
Very simply, I will support it.
All right. Did you want to go ahead?
And I supported both of these in committee and plan to continue to support.
All right. Next questions are regarding Medicaid expansion. The one bill number that was referenced is SB 186. And then the basic question is, do you support Medicaid expansion? And regarding SB 186, there's a question as to why to delay expansion to start to July 2023 versus this year. So again, do you support Medicaid expansion? And then regarding the implementation, if it passes, could it start this year versus next year? Anybody want to go first? Don't all jump at once. All right. Senator Steinhauer?
They're looking at me because I'm the prime sponsor.
All right, good.
The last question was why July 23. That's the same date as what's proposed in the constitutional amendment. It does take time to petition the feds and to set up the program, so that's the reason for that date. Medicaid expansion, in my opinion, can do a lot of great things for the state of South Dakota. It's on the ballot in fall, and I really do not like it to be in our Constitution because it ties the hands of the legislature. We can't see what's going to happen in 5 years, let alone 50 years from now. You know, if you go to a hospital and you can't afford care, they take care of your emergency issues, and those costs get shifted to us in what we pay and our insurance premiums. But what it doesn't do, they don't do, or they aren't required to do, is take care of health conditions. And maybe you've got diabetes, chronic Crohn's, whatever the case might be, which causes you to miss work. Then you're fired and you're not an employable individual. This is a workforce issue as much as it is anything else. It's low cost to the state and will provide tremendous benefits to our Native Americans in terms of health care. And I'm in favor of doing it through the legislature, and I'm proposing a bill to do that. Senate Bill 102 it sets up a Medicaid expansion fund because there will be a lot of money coming from the federal government. It's incentives to the 12 states that haven't expanded. We're one of those 12. I want that money set aside, used for Medicaid, as opposed to building a new state park someplace.
Thank you, Representative Rayfeld.
Thank you. I am supportive of Senator Steinhauer's efforts to do Medicaid expansion through the legislative process, and I am for that for two reasons. I think it's a responsible business decision as a state, and number two, I think it's all about people. And as a nurse, I can't ignore that, and I think that it will be very beneficial for our communities going forward and really benefit the health of our communities, and that's really what matters to me. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Representative Duba?
I'm definitely in favor of Medicaid expansion. I signed both of the petitions that were out there circulating last year, and I really appreciate that Senator Steinhauer has embraced Medicaid expansion. I know in the past I don't want to single him out, but I know that Medicaid expansion have been dirty words in South Dakota. And we have so many people, the working poor, who are out there who are not covered. I think it'll be an interesting debate as it comes over to the House. I really need to be more educated on it. I hope and I pray that the will of the people, and by putting it on the ballot and then seeing you vote again in November, will prevail. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. The next, again, another stack of questions about SB 211, SB 211, and regarding vaccines. And again, I have questions up here both on pro and con, so I think I'm going to simply ask, what's your position on SB 211 and why? I'll give you a moment to call it up and see who wants to go first. Again, SB 211 for folks looking at it out there. I feel like I should have a song and dance or something to fill the time while we look this up.
I'll go.
Open it up here.
All right. Thank you.
Might as well get the
Senator
discussion
Colbeck and
started.
then Representative Duba. Thank you.
Might as well get the discussion started on this here. I am not and have not ever been in favor of a mandatory vaccine for COVID-19. And as a person that's been employed for 50-some years now in the business that I am, and I've worked with a number of employees over those years, and I have not ever seen the reason to mandate something like this here, because I think the people that I have worked with and employed over the years are very responsible people, and we have been very responsible through this pandemic. It's not going to go away. We know that. It's going to be here for a long time, and there's going to be another variants come shortly. I've known people that have had the vaccine, 2 boosters, and have done all the things they can do, and have still I've contacted the virus, especially Omicron, a couple times, and so I would be supportive of SB 211 as it is written and comes forth on the Senate floor. Thank you.
Representative Duba?
I'm going to start by saying I think this whole issue has been so politicized from the beginning, and it's really breaking my heart. You know, all of us in this room probably got several vaccinations before we went to school. And hence, we don't see smallpox anymore, polio anymore. Our children don't see measles that often. I think it is really up to the employers to decide how they want to keep their environment safe. There are exemptions in place. We put them in place for schools. It's in statute right now. And employers can work with their employees. And I especially believe that if you're working in a healthcare facility, they have the opportunity, since you're working with people who are immunocompromised or in a weak position, to make sure that you're immunized against all of the things that you need to do. And I'm going to just also say that our military, they step up all the time and take the vaccinations that they need when they go into harm's way. I will not be supporting this bill. I want to allow employers to make those decisions, and people do have a choice, and take it from there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Representative Peterson.
Like one of the others we talked about before, I think this is a personal freedom issue. I think individuals should have the right to take the COVID vaccine or other vaccines if they feel that's the best choice for them. And I think individuals should also have the right to refuse that if that's not the best thing for them. And I really think it's important that we don't have government making those decisions for individuals. So I would always try to err on the side of protecting personal freedom. I think this bill in particular tries to do that. I would like to maybe see some adjustments or enhancements to this bill, but in general I support the concept of no mandates.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, you know, when you look at this bill, overall, the concept of it seems okay to me, right? I think that it's appropriate to allow individuals to have religious or medical exemptions for the COVID-19 vaccination because I think we should respect individuals. I will say there's a couple components of this bill that I think are important for people to understand. This does not apply to National Guard. This does not apply to healthcare, and part of that is because it affects reimbursement. So we have to follow federal guidelines in healthcare in order to receive federal reimbursement. And then I also think it's important to look at the piece of natural immunity, and I think that's probably where my biggest concern with this bill comes from, and because of the timeline. So we have different of these different, Omicron, different variants that are coming out, and I think it's important that we analyze those and understand whether or not a 6-month time frame is appropriate. And so that's where my concern come from. I haven't made a decision on how I'm going to support this or not, but I wanted to lay out those things so everyone is well informed about those issues within the bill. Thanks.
All right, Representative Healy and then Senator Steinhauer.
A lot of my sentiments were already shared already, but I would agree with Representative Duba. There are already medical exemptions and religious exemptions in place, and for that reason, I will not be supporting this bill.
Senator Steinhauer.
Thank you. I voted for this in committee, but did so rather reluctantly. I don't think government has a place to tell people what to do. So at the same point, I don't think that government should be telling businesses what they can or can't do. Requiring that a business honor a religious exemption, natural immunity, all of those things make sense. It's unfortunate we get to the point that we've got to mandate that. But there's a kind of a movement afoot, and I'm a conservative, I believe in free enterprise, that we're forgetting that. And we're starting to have run bills that say we're going to tell banks who they've got to lend to and not. And I'm real concerned about where our government's going, too much intervention. And that includes businesses, which we treat under state law like people.
All right. Okay. The next questions are regarding SB 172. Again, SB 172 regarding parole. And again, I'm going to read one of these. SB 172 would make persons serving life sentences eligible for parole if the crime was committed before age 25. Will you support? Senator
I am
Steinhauer.
a supporter of this bill. It's a medical fact that individuals' brains are fully developed till they're in their mid-20s. A heinous crime like that, there needs to be punishment, there needs to be retribution, all of the above. But I just think there could also be something that God told us about, and that's some forgiveness and giving them another chance.
Anybody else? Representative Duba.
I'm a sponsor of this bill. I know the senator very well that is bringing this bill. It's come before us before. And I think Senator Steinhauer said it best. Individuals that are under the age of 25, their brains are not fully formed. These are monumental mistakes that you're making when you get a life sentence. We have parole boards that look at them. You have the opportunity to redeem yourself in prison. We're not talking about an individual who's maybe serving 5 years and then we're going to, has served 5 years and then we're going to say you're out. There will be stringent a process to follow, but we really need to take a look at this, and we are so punitive in this state. Here's an opportunity where we can make amends.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. In appropriations this year, we've got probably 7 requests for prisons. And I think it's upwards in the vicinity of, if I want to put a number to it, of $70 to $80 million or more to build new prisons in the state of South Dakota. And that's from counties and that's from the state as well. And I'm not saying that letting a person out of prison because he created a horrendous crime back when he was below the age of 25 is the right thing to do. But I also have faith in human beings, and I think that if they have spent their time in the prison, and I trust our parole boards, that if they, under the rules and regulations of releasing that particular person, would help him get back into the community and work and do that. And I feel for the victims, and I know that there will be a lot of testimony by victims against this bill, but I'm going to listen to those and how this comes about. But like I said, I'm more in favor of getting people back into the workforce than I am for building more brick and mortar buildings and putting them behind the bars. Thank you.
Go ahead, Representative Thomason.
I think Senator Kolbeck brought up some really good points. There's going to be good testimony on both sides. That is probably going to be heart-wrenching as well on both sides. And I believe one thing about this bill as it's written today, because it is on the Senate side and who knows what it may be when if it gets to the House, but it's just an option for them to get in front of the parole board. And so it's not like it automatically just lets them out, and we would need to trust, if this bill passes in its current form, the parole board on what's going on with that. So just wanted to add that.
All right. Great. Anybody else? All right, I'm looking at the time, and I'm having that moment of, can I get one more in? And I think I probably, especially the live stream, will appreciate it to make sure we end on time. So I'm going to read a list of all of the questions that did not get answered. The hardest part about my job is trying to get as many topics as covered, and I did try to pick the ones that there seemed to be the most energy in the room or online for, but there were a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and list this, and I can also make sure that the legislators get this list afterward. House Bill 1311 regarding abortion, House Bill 112 regarding firearms licensing, SB 194 regarding early childhood funding, trust fund regulation, there was no bill, SB 182, SB 159 regarding capital punishment, HB 1005 regarding transgender bathroom, SB 69 regarding voter registration, SB 114 regarding tax rebates, HB 1268 regarding marriage name change, initiate a measure and amendment C, HB 1111 local control, and then there was around the hog house vehicle bills, one on there too. So again, lots of issues we didn't get to today, but I'm glad we got to cover some issues, and everyone's going to have a chance to make a 90-second closing statement, and I'm going to start down on my right with Representative Rayfeld, who got back just in time from mom duty. So go ahead with your closing statement.
Mom duties never end.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I appreciate everyone being here today, and I look forward to continuing the work that we have in the legislature over the next 4 to 5 weeks. I will add, I just wanted to make sure that when you are concerned about how your representative is voting on a bill, if you agree or disagree with it, I think it's important to reach out to them because there might be just one little component of the bill that they didn't agree with, but they agree with the concept of it. And for you to understand exactly why they're voting for or against a bill, I think it's important to really get that perspective, so I encourage you to do that. And I'm always open to conversations over the phone or email, so feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you.
Representative Peterson.
Thanks everybody for being here, both in person and online. We are heading into the really, really busy time. We're coming up on crossover day, so we'll be seeing a lot of extra committee time. I serve on both the Judiciary Committee and the Education Committee in the House, and we are meeting on Monday, Wednesday mornings, and then also after session, both committees on Monday, Wednesday afternoons. So you'll be seeing a lot of activity and then a lot of bills either not making it through that process or coming to the floor. So I also would encourage you, as you reach out to your representatives or senators, it's really, really helpful to know whether you are from South Dakota or not. We get a lot of emails that maybe just list a name, but we have no idea to know whether they're from South Dakota. And then also to know whether or not you're from our district, because I give highest priority to the constituents in my district because they are the ones that sent me to peer. So please do indicate that as well. And thanks again for being here.
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you. I really appreciate you people all being here, and I ditto the words that everybody said about, how to get a hold of you. I mean, we try to take as many emails as we can and answer them back. And in our busy day, we try to do that. But I'm just going to mention a little bit about my day at the Capitol, because a lot of people ask. In appropriations, we start meeting, and Representative Duba can vouch for this, we start meeting as early as 7 o'clock, maybe earlier in the morning, and sometimes we have to go later on in the evening, plus we have session and we have committee hearings, that bills that we sponsor. This year alone, we have listened to, in our appropriations, over 50 budget briefings, all the way from Department of Health, Department of Social Service, Attorney General. Some of those briefings took as long as 13 hours, some are only an hour long, but we've done that, 50 of them. And we started a week early before the session started just to get everybody's input in on the bill briefings. And this year, in our department, right now today, I'll take that back, we had 34 bill briefings. We have 50 appropriations bills sitting in front of us right now today that we have to contend with starting on Monday morning. And so it just kind of gives you the time of day we have. But we do really appreciate you guys being here. And anytime you need to send us a note or an email, you can find it on the South Dakota Legislature's website and get a hold of us. And appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Representative Thomason.
Thank you all for coming. And as others have said, we do enjoy getting communication, and we do try our best to read them all and get back as we can. I want to touch a little bit on the people and peer. I believe that we've got to a point that your politics or how you view things is how people start identifying you as a person. And there are some people in peer that I work with that I vehemently disagree with. And I tell them that respectfully, and then I can go have dinner with them afterwards. I love every single one of my representatives and senators that I work with. I enjoy hearing from both pros and cons on bills when there's testimony, and my heart can go out to both of those. But I just would like everyone to remember that at the end of the day, how we treat other people and who we are to other people is the most important. And I do appreciate how everyone in peer treats me, and I do appreciate how the constituents as well treat me. So that's just all I wanted to say.
Senator Zickman.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I was remiss in my opening remarks, and I usually open up with thanking our veterans. The veterans are the ones, probably the reason that we get to sit here. And we've done a lot for our veterans and Guard and Reserve, and we're going to continue to do so. There's a couple of things going through. I've got a couple of things going through, and one is not a bill. It's just going to increase, hopefully, for our Honor Guard throughout the state, because we do help support the Honor Guards program in our state. There's also some things coming through that we've approved. We just approved a bill for railroad safety zones, which is about $5.4 million on a cost compared, et cetera. But it came through transportation the other day, which I made the motion on, and it now goes over to appropriations, and there's going to be a $60 million water bill coming through for the state of South Dakota, which Sioux Falls is going to be able to garner some funding for that. So there's a lot of good things that your legislature does. Believe it or not, there's a lot of good things your legislature does. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank District 14 for allowing me to be here and voting for me, and best wishes.
Representative Healy.
Yeah, thank you all for showing up today. This is truly a fun job. I always say that to everyone, that I am so lucky to have two fun jobs. My district is drastically changing this year, and so to all of you who are in 14 who will no longer follow me to District 10, thank you for letting me represent you, and I've enjoyed meeting you at your doors and talking to you through emails. It's been a really great opportunity to get to know you. Please feel free to follow along during committee and session on sdpb.org. We love when people listen in and email us questions. And with that, I'll also be responding to a lot of emails this weekend during Super Bowl Sunday. So maybe some of you will be hearing from me then.
Senator Steinhauer.
Thank you, and thank you, Sarah, for moderating today. A couple things I'd like to just mention is that national politics aren't necessarily state politics. It seems like we latch on to things that we see the talking heads talk about and turn them into South Dakota issues that they may not be. I'll also tell you that I don't like identity politics. For a guy that's talking Medicaid, it's like all of a sudden I had to turn in my Republican card, right? Democrats, it seems like they can't be pro-life. Why do we have to be that way? It's because we get too decisive. Things are more complex than black and white. And I'm pro-life. I voted against some pro-life bills because they weren't done well. So be careful when you just read the headlines and jump to conclusions. Continue to be involved. Remember, you can disagree, but don't be disagreeable. And I really appreciate your being here. It's been an honor to serve. I have great respect for all of my colleagues. Thank you.
Representative Duba.
Well, thank you, everyone, for showing up today. We appreciate it. We'd be remiss if we didn't thank Southeast Tech, the League of Women Voters, the Sioux Falls Chamber, and AARP, of which I am a proud member, I might say. So thank you. Yes, I'm that old. But I also want to say it's an honor and a privilege to represent not only District 15, but all of South Dakota. When I think about every day when I walk up those marble steps, and my good senator to my right said this to me one day, he said, I like to go up and down the white stairs because you never know when it's going to be your last day. And I agree with him. It is a privilege and an honor. We are going to make some really tough choices over the next 4 weeks. Senator Colbeck and I will be locked up in a room making revenue decisions, budget decisions. Your feedback, your input is valuable. We have seen that throughout this session. There have been bills that have been brought forward for ways to spend money that died in committee. I can't remember when that's happened as much as it's happened this year. So continue to be, to send us emails, to call us, to do what it takes to get your point across, because your voice matters. And again, it is an honor and a privilege to sit here and be a representative of the state of South Dakota. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And let's give our legislators a round of applause for their being here this morning on a busy day. And I have to say, possibly I could have gotten one more question in, but I did not have faith that these guys were going to stick to the 90 seconds. So you all proved me wrong. So I appreciate that. So again, I want to thank our sponsor, AARP, and Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters, the Sioux Falls Education Association, and thank Southeast Technical College for allowing us to use this fantastic auditorium, and to today's interpreter, Rick Norris of Interprecorps, and thank you to our great volunteers that have been around trying to make sure this event goes off without a hitch. So finally, thanks to the audience, both online and here in the room, for all the awesome questions and for just being here and being engaged. You're in a really important part of this whole process. So thank you, and everybody have a great rest of your day, and good luck to whoever you want tomorrow in the Super Bowl. Thank you.
Viking got beat out.
Oh, yeah, all right.